What's up, YouTubers? You're probably going to notice a bit of a different tone in my voice in this one because I have a couple things that I want to say. When I first signed up my YouTube account, it was long before Google ever owned it, and I pretty much just watched as a viewer, but didn't start actually posting videos until I learned about Google AdSense. Now, my channel's never been a successful one, but for a couple years there, I made about $100 a year. It was a nice Christmas coupon, but I still continued to plug on with my how-to videos, and I do it as an amateur in most cases. I do that, and I don't try to hide my screw-ups because I think it's important when you're teaching somebody something, not just that it can go wrong or why it goes wrong, but actually show them why they shouldn't do things a certain way. And so from that regard, I always felt that my tutorials were valuable to people. And yeah, some of them are real short and some of them are pretty long. The longer ones are typically the ones that took me a day or more to complete though. So when you put that in perspective, 22 minutes versus my entire day, I think that's rational. My Ring doorbell video is a great example of that. I made a lot of mistakes on that one. But I digress. A couple years ago, YouTube sent me an email that said basically they're changing their rules and that in order for my channel to be remonetized, I would have to have 5,000 views a month and 1,000 subscribers. Now, I'm good on the views. I mean, you guys are watching this stuff. I get well over 5,000 views a month, believe it or not. Between all my videos, I get over 5,000 views a month. Actually, I get around like 7,000 or 8,000 according to my my analytics. But I still have just over 300 subscribers, and I'm sure maybe half of those are fake accounts or bots or something. But hey, you know, whatever, I'll take what I can get. So now YouTube, a couple weeks ago, has sent me an email telling me not only am I demonetized, but I'm not even considered for monetization anymore, and that I would have to reapply. My YouTube channel is probably about 14 or 15 years old. Well, at least my account is anyway. My oldest video, I think, is 9 or 10 years old. I would like to consider myself one of the smaller parts, but still one of the parts that helped build YouTube and make it into what it is. And I feel that this treatment by YouTube in favor of maybe those who are paying for ads or whatever is just a slap in the face to those of us small guys who actually help build this platform. I suspect the conversation probably in the meeting room between people who pay for advertisement and YouTube, Google, whatever you want to call them. I suspect that conversation went something like this. Well, we're paying you to advertise for us. We don't want our advertisements run on these little peon channels where they don't get a whole lot of exposure. We want premium channels. And so Google was like, yeah, okay, we'll slap our fucking our founding base in the face in favor of your money because we're whores. And well, that's what whores do. Whores will do anything for money. And YouTube is definitely a whore. While all this is going on, I've always tried to remain neutral and political free on my channel. But since all this has been going on with our elections and everything, I just feel that I have to come out and say it at this point that if you are not for the conversation of making sure that this was a free and fair election, then you are part of the problem. I disagree with YouTube's practices of trying to censor conservative voices. I so firmly believe that they may have had a part in it that I honestly wouldn't pass them. And this is just my theory. This is my opinion. I don't have any proof of this, but it would not surprise me to learn that big tech platforms possibly had a hand in this subversion. We've got whistleblowers with video coming from the United States Post Office itself. We've got other people who have recorded videos of postal workers dropping off ballots after deadlines. We have records of 200-year-old people voting. And honestly, I don't feel that it's right. I don't feel that it's right. And there's a lot of my Democrat and Republican friends who agree with me, believe it or not. But these are the old blue dog liberals who are still decent human beings. They do, blue dog liberals do advocate for free speech. They do advocate for your Second Amendment. though they would, advocate for gun laws, which I've said time and time again. Gun laws basically just allow the government to wedge their foot in the door of freedom. And once they've found that path, they'll use that path to keep pushing on that door until finally they're all the way in your home. And your freedom, your privacy, everything that you hold dear and cherish is just gone. This whole time I've tried to keep this channel free of politics. Until today. And you're probably saying why? What makes difference? What makes today so different? Well, what makes today so different is that I've decided that I'm going to leave YouTube. This is going to be my last video that I ever post on YouTube. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop making videos, guys. I'm just not going to post them here. I have accounts on BitChute, and I just started an account on Rumble. I'm going to continue to use BitChute like I have been. It's a different platform. It interfaces differently. Some of you may be a little confused by it, but give it a chance. I have posted, just to test BitChute and their claim to be censorship-free, I have posted some very outlandish stuff on their site just to test it. And they haven't taken down one damn video yet. As long as I follow the copyright laws, we're good. I've had that account up now for probably about a good year. But I am going to give Rumble a shot because so far I do like the way the interface looks. It looks pretty similar to Utard here. So I think, the similarities in the interface and where you find your buttons and things like that and how it works, the whole layout and everything. I think those similarities would make for an easier transition for my viewers if they wanted to follow me. All 5 of you. But what I'm not going to do is continue to contribute to leftist contributors like YouTube and Google. I do not use Google browser search. I use DuckDuckGo and I use Epic Browser. DuckDuckGo is pretty comparable. Their search results are not as good as Google, but good enough. And Epic Browser is so secure in terms of privacy, it's almost a pain in the ass to use. I have a Twitter account, though I never really cared for Twitter, so I don't really post on there much. In fact, I think I've probably used Twitter more often after this election than I have the entire 2 or 3 years that I've had it. Instead, I made a switch over to Parler. That's Parler. I'm sure you've probably heard of it by now because there is a huge exodus from Facebook right now. Everybody's moving to Parler, but it's not really an identical move. It's not really a lateral move because Parler is set up more like Twitter. Now, if you want to find a platform that's pretty similar to Facebook, I would suggest Wimkin, Wimkin, or I would suggest this other platform that I just registered for, MeWe, that's MEWE, or maybe it's WeMe, WEME. I don't remember now. But as far as YouTube goes, no, I'm not going to close the channel. I will let them ban me or whatever it is they're going to do. I already have all of my videos backed up and I will be reposting them on both BitChute and Rumble. One thing I have noticed about BitChute that I don't like, and it's probably just a glitch. I actually tried contacting them about this before, but I never got a response back. But BitChute, sometimes what I see on the desktop site is different from what I see on my mobile app. It's almost like there's a problem in their software with how those videos all merge so that you see the same videos on both versions. Because, I could log into the BitChute app and start banging away and looking at videos. But then I go to the desktop site and I look for some of those videos and some of them are not there. But then I go back to the mobile app and they are there. So I don't know what BitChute's doing about that, but maybe I need to just tap on their shoulder again. So I guess if this is going to be my last video and I'm all about the how-tos and tutorials, right? I might as well make this a bit of a tutorial right now. This tutorial is called How to Vote. First off and foremost, you have to be registered to vote, and you have to be an eligible registered voter in order to vote. You can be registered and still be ineligible. If you want to know how that's possible, check with your local state and county governments. Second thing I want to say is don't vote straight party tickets. If you vote, say, straight Republican ticket, and you go down and there's a position that is contested between a Democrat and a Libertarian, but there is no Republican, you will not get a vote in that race at all whatsoever because there's no Republican candidate. This is why I fill out my ballots one election at a time, one race at a time. I did vote in a straight party manner, but I did not vote a straight party ticket. This allowed me to look at races that did not have my candidate on the ballot and allow me to at least vote third party so that I could vote against the party that I so despise so much right now. The second thing you should do when you're voting is do not vote early. See this right here? This is a 4-page replica of our Constitution. But in that document, it clearly states that we are supposed to vote on one day, not before then, not after that. Yet we have early voting. Oh, but it doesn't really count because we don't actually count the ballots until election day. Fuck you. And this is why I say, fuck you. If you vote early, right, say you voted for Biden this time around. He's going to ban fracking. He's going to ban all fossil fuels. I'm all for that. Okay, all right, good. That's how you feel about it. And then you mail in your ballot early. You checked off Biden. Then you watch the final presidential debate between he and Trump. And he says, no, I will not ban fracking. Now, don't fact check me on that because I'm not quoting Biden. But he did say, inadvertently, he was going to ban fracking. In fact, he actually used the words, we're not going to ban fracking. Now, if you're a Biden voter and that was like your main thing and that's why you were voting for him, you feel like, what? So now the Google search term, how do I change my ballot, starts making rank in their analytics. I don't know that you can change your ballot. I think if there is a pathway to changing your ballot, it probably involves you contacting your local board of elections and then having to go to their office. Maybe there's a form or something you got to sign. I don't know. I've always waited until election day because that's what the Constitution told us we're supposed to do. You can't claim anything about your democracy or anything. First off, we do not live in a democracy. Yeah, they're trying to change it into democracy. We have socialist policies, and those are all wrong. Those are all wrong. Social Security should be phased out. I don't think it should just be cut because there's old folks who still depend on that. But it should definitely be transitioned out because, I mean, think about it, guys. What's one of the first things they're ready to cut when they need to balance the budget? Social Security. They will never consider congressional pay or presidential pay or any of that. No, it's always been Social Security. And sometimes they make cuts in defense spending, which is also important because if we can't defend ourselves, well, so that's my second piece of advice in how to vote. Do not vote early. Do not vote straight ticket. Do not vote early. I know it seems like it might be this minor problem. That's not our biggest problem. Right now, our big problem is with Dominion and the glitches and the dead people and the disgruntled ballot workers who were caught on camera basically throwing ballots in the garbage. Postal workers bringing in ballots after hours, after the Supreme Court gave them a deadline. None of it's right. And up until this point, I've tried to keep this whole thing pretty neutral and not reveal my my party of choice. But since it is going to be my last video here on YouTube, I am not afraid to say that I am a constitutionalist. What is a constitutionalist? Well, in layman's terms, a constitutionalist might describe themselves as somebody who is centrist right-leaning. Personally, I would advocate for LGBT rights. Now, you notice I didn't put the TQ plus in there, and there's a reason for that. I'll get to that in just a second. To be lesbian, gay, or bisexual is to acknowledge the skin that you're in and your preference and choice for a partner that is of the same sex or of either or sex. But to undergo a gender reassignment surgery is basically to not acknowledge the skin you're in. And that key identifier right there separates LGB from the TQSP 5908 Upsilon, whatever. Now, you can call that hate speech all you want. That's another problem we have, too. Censorship under the guise of hate speech. Justice Anton Scalia, God rest his soul, ruled that there is no such thing as hate speech, that all speech is protected under the First Amendment. It can be inflammatory, but it's not illegal. So if I wanted to bust out of here with some real inflammatory speech with, like, F words to describe the LGBT community or, other colorful language, well, I can remind you what real racist speech actually sounds like, but I'm not going to do that. Because, as I said, I'm constitutionalist. I do support LGBT people. I do support their right to be married, which is not really an issue these days. There's a lot of places for LGBT people to get married now. In that same regard, I do respect a church's right to prohibit executing ceremonies for such couplings. And I would advocate that the LGBT community find a church that does not prohibit their union if they want to get married in a church. But I do not think that any court in the land should ever prohibit an LGBT union. Separation of church and state is a totally different thing from what I'm talking about, really, but I do kind of think in name it sort of applies. We can't just say separation of church and state for one reason and not make it totalitarian all the way down the board. And when I say totalitarian, I don't mean like we should have a totalitarian government or way of life. No, I mean just in this one aspect, pick a side and apply it all the way down from the top to the bottom. You see what I'm saying? Separation of church and state should apply to LGBT marriage so that no court in the land could ever deny a lesbian, gay, or bisexual person the right to be married in a court. But I also uphold the First Amendment, which means it should be a church's right to decide if they do not want to host such unions. Also in that regard, I would not prohibit any church that does want to host such unions. I also advocate for lesbians, gays, and bisexuals to adopt children. If they are a good, loving couple, with no felonies and no misdemeanors as of recent, and they can provide a suitable environment for a child to grow up in, then by all means, let them adopt. More importantly, LGBT rights towards healthcare. I advocate for LGBT people to have access to the same quality of healthcare that the rest of us receive. They should not be denied based on the fact that they are a man married to a man or a woman married to a woman. And from a human rights perspective, I will actually include the TQ LMNOP in there. And when it comes to medical rights, because, all heartbeats deserve a chance. It's actually in our Declaration of Independence that all people are endowed by their Creator to the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Notice the first word there is life, which is where the right side of me comes out, because I do not advocate for abortion as birth control. Let's be clear about this. If you need to have an abortion because you were assaulted or you're going to die, then yes, I would, with a heavy heart, not obstruct an abortion for those reasons. And so there's the right-leaning centrist right there. Yes, I would not completely abolish abortion, but I do not advocate for its use as birth control. We have many other contraceptive methods out there. We do not need surgery to be one of them. I also advocate for the LGBT right to serve in the military. This may actually be the one thing that I do not advocate for transsexuals or the rest of them. And the reason for that is simple, really. It's because the military is not set up to handle people of that type of gender. I don't know how else better to put it. That the people of that type of gender. I guess trans would be the gender. And don't go banning me for this, YouTube. I'm just simply expressing my opinion and disclosing my lack of intellect, my lack of knowledge on this topic. Though if you do, I don't really give a shit. It's my last video anyway, so. If you are Republican, you understand that right now there's actually an internal conflict going on in the Republican Party. That conflict is basically constitutionalists like myself trying to push out the rich old white conservative men of corruption. Now, my blue dog liberal countrymen would applaud me for this. Believe me, they would. They're probably applauding me right now. And now, what if I told you that many Trump supporters are just like me? If you're a member of the Democrat Party and you're an old blue dog liberal, you have a battle of your own. You've been invaded by communists. YouTube, you're on that list, aren't you? You're a communist. Yeah, YouTube's a communist. YouTube, face bitch, twatter. Gotta dig Dorsey's coke ring, though. You see that? That gold coke nose ring that he had when he was on the Zoom chat with Senator Cruz. Mint. Guy's got a fucking meeting in his own backyard and he can't make it on time. He looks like shit. He's got a fucking beard that makes Bin Laden's beard look magnificent. You think the least thing that this cokehead could do is take out the fucking nose ring. But, you know, Jackass Dorsey does whatever Jackass Dorsey wants. It's clear. I saw it in his eyes. Zero fucks given. And then there's Zuck the Cuck. I mean, this guy is just a blatant fucking liar. And while YouTube isn't exactly the worst of them, they've done their part. And so with all that being said, I'm going to just come right out and say, not only am I constitutionalist, right-leaning centrist, but I'm a Trump supporter. And believe me when I say that the media isn't telling you what's going on right now. They're not telling you the truth of it all. And to my blue dog liberal countrymen, I feel very bad for you guys right now. I feel like you've been orphaned from your own political party. I feel that they've gone so far over the fucking edge that your conscience will not allow you to vote Democrat, and you feel like you have no choice based on manner and moral than to vote Republican. And I just want to say, I understand. I will not hate you for it. I will not make fun of you for it. None of us will. Instead, we will embrace you with open arms, and you are more than welcome to call the GOP your temporary home until you guys can establish a new party that more accurately reflects your stances and your views, or until you can push the bullshit out of your party. Use your primary elections. And that's my advice for Republicans too. If we're going to get rid of the rhinos without flipping seats, use your primary elections. Tell these people they are not fucking welcome in your party anymore. That's what we need to do. This country will not reunite until constitutionalists have pushed out the old corruption of conservatism and liberals have beat back the communist threat to liberty. These people claim to be woke, but believe me when I say they are not awake, and they will never be awake. These are tantrum-throwing children, and it would bolster the argument to increase the voting age to 25. I also believe if we're going to make the age for cigarettes and alcohol and firearms 21, we should also make the age of enlistment 21. Right? I mean, people are living longer, right? Give you a couple years to figure out what the hell you want to do with your life after high school. And so now that I have finally expressed my opinions and views, I'm going to conclude this video. I do plan on mixing up my videos on other platforms that respect my First Amendment. So you may find a new kind of channel over there on BitChute or on Rumble where it's not just a bunch of how-tos, but I probably will not be afraid to get political on it as well. So you'll have a bit of a mixture there, some how-tos and some political ideas. I hope that this lands in the Supreme Court. I hope the Supreme Court makes the right ruling. If the Supreme Court nullifies the vote and sends it to the House, which has happened twice in our country's history, then you can be confident that Donald John Trump will get his second term, because the way they vote is not by representative, but by state. So anybody out there shitting their pants about the presidential election going to the House, worry not. They do not take a vote by representative count. They take a vote by state count. And right now, Republicans hold a majority of the states, which means Donald John Trump will retain his presidency if it goes to that level. You can do your part. Contact SCOTUS and just let them know, with all of this electronic glitching and everything, that alone is reason enough to nullify this election. It has happened across several states, and the burden to the people of trying to surgically correct this election by filtering out all the illegal ballots is going to take far too long, and we just don't have that much time. And we need to default, as our Constitution orders us to, nullify the entire election and send it to the House. Guys, everyone that's been tuning in over the years, I want to thank you for supporting my channel. I'd like to thank you for your comments. and your subscriptions. I will leave links down below where you can follow me on Rumble and BitChute. Until then, have a good day. God loves you. God bless America. And God bless Donald John Trump. I'm out.